Hi everyone, Charles from The Food People here. I hope you're all keeping safe and well. It's my great pleasure to welcome Lily Bovey, co-founder of Ground, the green red meat company. Lily joins me today to talk about the timely launch of the climate positive burger brand Ground. So welcome Lily, and thank you very much for joining me today as part of The Food People in Conversation With.
No, hi, thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. At The Food People, we're very clear about why we do what we do. We're champions of change driven every day by our intent to shift the future of food and drink by harnessing the power of trends. And this In Conversation With series is all about talking to other people, businesses, brands, entrepreneurs to find out more about why they do what they do, how in their way they're championing change and shifting the future of food and drink. Lily, great to be speaking to you today, and thanks ever so much for joining me. Can I start by asking you to just give us a bit of a potted history, really, of how you've got to this point of setting up Ground, and yeah, really, how did you get here?
No, sure, yeah. So I guess it's probably worth stating that Ground's been a bit of a long old slog to get even to where we are now. You know, Corona aside. It sort of started, I have another food company. It's just a street food company that I sort of operate in London called Steakhouse. And that's been going for almost 6 years now. So I sell steak and chips on that stall. And yeah, a couple of years into the business, I was sort of tapping into my conscience and was thinking, Christ, like I'm pushing a lot of red meat here. Like what I hear in the news and online, this is not good for the environment, and I probably need to like look a little bit further into Steakhouse and our workings to make sure that I'm doing what I can, you know, for our world. And yeah, luck would have it, it's actually so random and I don't even know how this happened. It's like one of those things where your computer listens to you. I had an email pop into my inbox from, I think it was crowdfunding. Ethical Butcher is crowdfunding. And I was like, what on earth is this? Ethical Butcher, that sounds amazing. I need to speak to them. So yeah, I just directly contacted them and was like, can we meet up? I need to know more about what you guys are doing. Like, how are you claiming you're ethical butcher? Like, wow, I need to understand this. So yeah, I just met up with them. This is like a few years ago now, maybe 2.5, 3 years ago. And yeah, just started a relationship with them basically, they started supplying my meat for Steakhouse. I learned more about regenerative agriculture and the lengths that they were going to get their meat, and it was just so interesting. And sort of from there with Farshad and Glenn, that's the guys that run Ethical Butcher, it just sort of came about. We were talking about burger mints. They said, Lily, you must know some street food burger people. Can you potentially link us with some people, because we've got mints that we're sort of creating to balance our carcasses out, and it would be great to, you know, further make ourselves more sustainable and sell this burger meat too. And I was like, yeah, okay, fine, I'll have a look. But you know, all these burger people I know, they have their meat supply, they're very happy with it, it's taken them years to perfect. So that sort of didn't turn up anything, and we just sort of sat down, Farshad and I, and we were like, do you know what, we could probably do this ourselves. And once we started talking about it and discussing, you know, it wasn't just going to be a burger brand. We could be so much more than that, actually, and use this arm of Ground and push this regenerative agriculture message further. And yeah, really just sort of become something bigger and better than just the sort of street food brand or supplying to a street food brand. Ground could really stand on its own. And yeah, it just sort of went from there, really. And the more we spoke about it, the more excited we got. And in turn, then we developed some amazing branding. And yeah, it's just sort of, it's been super organic. Like, it wasn't something that we initially set out or had in our business plans. Ethical Butcher themselves are sort of only just getting on their feet, you know? So in order to sort of start another business venture was probably, some would consider a bit silly, but honestly, it's been a pleasure working on Ground, and it really has, I guess, it's just sort of developed all by itself, because it is great, you know.
Can you explain how you kind of describe Ground? You know, what is it, and I suppose a bit more of your kind of motivation for establishing it in the first place?
Sure. So, I mean, Ground essentially is a burger patty company. We want to create a meat product that doesn't cause damage to the environment, and not only that, regenerates the land in which it's sort of produced on.
Yeah.
So because we do the patties, the burgers, we also do like a cooked version of the burger. When we're doing like a street food offering, we want to be able to sell the patties into like restaurants or into shops and supermarkets. And I guess the motivation behind it is because, you know, we know now and we understand that red meat doesn't always mean bad things for the planet, bad things for your health as well. There is actually so much misinformation out there, and we want to sort of clear that all up and give people a way of consuming something they love without feeling super guilty about it.
Yeah.
Because it really doesn't have to be that way. Not everything that you read is true. And yeah, we just want to totally clear that up for people and make an accessible product as well. Like, I think you know, Ethical Butcher, I don't know if you guys know about it, but online it's sort of a premium meat delivery company. So, you know, there might be a few products on there that are a bit more expensive. You want to treat yourself and have it at the end of the week on a Sunday roast or something. But I guess with burgers, we can sort of make ourselves appealing to everyone. Like, who doesn't love a burger? You can take them back to your house and put them on the barbecue, you know, have them out on a food market. So I think being able to, it works in so many ways, because being able to take the byproduct sort of mince from Ethical Butcher and use it, but then just repurpose it. And, you know, it's not a substandard product here. This is something incredible and amazing. And yeah, I think it's just about essentially being able to make a product and have it out there and have people know that when they're choosing this product, that they are in turn reducing their sort of impact on the environment.
I know in a lot of your messaging you use the term climate positive. Can you just explain to us what that means for you, and what you hope the message is that is conveyed by those that are buying the Ground product? Yeah, what does it mean?
Yeah, of course. I mean, to us, climate positive means that we're doing more good than harm. At the moment with Ground, we can't officially state that we're carbon neutral or carbon negative, because we just haven't had the funds to be able to sort of do that piece of work, but it will happen. And so yeah, climate positive for us, it sort of wraps it all in a nice sort of phrase, everything that we're doing behind the scenes, because regenerative agriculture works to remove carbon from the atmosphere. We also work really hard to increase biodiversity on our farms. That's sort of all part of regenerative agriculture as well.
Yeah.
You know, all other parts of our business and products, we're looking at the most sustainable options. You know, does it come from the UK? Where are the raw materials sourced from? You know, what processes does that production company use? And then we work with ecology just to sort of further offset any other damage that we can't account for right now. Just to make sure that, you know, even if we are being carbon neutral but we can't prove it, we're just going that extra mile just to sort of put a bow on it, I suppose. So yeah, climate positive to us is just someone who has the climate in the forefront of their mind, and with every decision that they're making, they're thinking about their environmental impact.
Okay, can you just give us, in your words, I suppose, what are the kind of principles of regenerative agriculture when it comes to beef? Because I'm sure people will be listening and thinking, how can beef be climate positive? You know, how does that work? Because everything in the media would suggest that is not the case. So can you just give us your thoughts on that?
No, totally. And listen, like, feedlots and big commercial farms are not good for the environment. Like, there's no two ways about it. And, you know, they're not good for the animals either. They're not good for the land. So it's really hard sometimes, because there isn't that definition in the media with beef farming. It's sort of one size fits all, and that's just really not the case, especially here in the UK. We just don't really do things the same way that they're potentially done in like South America, where a lot of you know, big commercial farms exist. But essentially, regenerative agriculture is a way of managing the land with the cows working in like an ecosystem.
Yeah.
So say, for example, like you had a 100-acre farm. This is just sort of a theoretical example. You put all of your cows on 1 acre for one day, and then move them onto the next acre for the next day. And what that then sort of does, if you can imagine, while the cows are on that 1 acre, they're sort of eating all of the grasses, yum, yum, yum. They're sort of peeing and pooing, and they're treading that all into the ground, and they move on then to the next part of the field, and then they don't actually come back to that original part for a month, or you know, however long it takes for that land to sort of regenerate, and the grasses will come right back up. And obviously in that process, photosynthesis, very basic science, sort of works to suck all of the carbon back into the ground, and not only that, creates super healthy soil, which is really, really important actually for our climate. You know, carbon lives in the soil. That's kind of how it works, if you have understanding of science and things like that, which I admit I do sometimes struggle with, because it's, you know, it's like going back to school. But once you delve into this realm of regenerative agriculture and you look at the resources that are available to you out there, because there are lots out there now, it does suddenly become very clear. And you know, it's just a way of farming that takes nature into account, rather than sort of just abusing it, you know. But yeah, it's pretty amazing actually. And as I said, there's loads of resources out there. There's a great documentary on Netflix called Kiss the Ground. And you know, there's loads of TED Talks, one called It's Not the Cow, It's the How. And yeah, Alan Savory is another figurehead of regenerative agriculture or holistic management. There's lots of different names for it as well. But yeah, it's super, super interesting. So all of our farms practice these methods. And that's how we sort of get the ground patties in the end.
Just on the point of regenerative agriculture, and like you, I've done lots of reading as well, and one of the angles is, and obviously like anything like this, you will absolutely get skeptics, and some of them, you know, are saying, you know, it's a really lovely idea, it's a great well-founded principle based on, you know, ancient techniques and things that we've been doing for many years, but it's not scalable, and therefore it doesn't solve the world's biggest problems. What's your kind of view on that?
Yeah, so God, the world has a lot of problems though, doesn't it? And I think it would be unfair to sort of put all of the blame on agriculture, certainly. But listen, I think that you can scale regenerative agriculture. Yes, it would mean our meat supply, if we were talking about the entire world, it would mean the meat supply would probably reduce. But we're focusing mainly on the UK right now, like Ground is serving the UK. B, if we look at the world as a whole, I think we produce enough food for like 10 billion people across the world, but we actually only have, what, 7 or something billion at the moment. So we're obviously wasting a lot of food there. So there's so many elements to this argument. We need to really start addressing so much stuff. Food waste is one of them. You know, our insane demand for food is kind of getting out of control. We walk into big supermarkets here, and you've got literally floor to ceiling meat on for like a big long aisle, and I just don't think it needs to be that way. If we produce less meat but it's higher in nutrients, which is what this sort of meat from this way of farming can assure, then there's an argument that you wouldn't need to eat as much meat as you do anyway. But listen, it's so different from person to person. One person's idea of what they eat per week might be very different to another person, you know, but it is scalable and it is being adopted all over the world. A lot of the US is now, you know, using regenerative agriculture as well. And I think, it is a tricky question. I'm not going to lie, but I think the attitude that we have here at Ground is that we are focusing here on the UK. And if we did regenerative agriculture here in the UK, we would be able to feed people in the UK. And I think that's enough to have on our plate for now. We'll take on the world. We'll take on the world later.
And you kind of touched on a point just a couple of moments ago, and again, you know, some experts would say actually we should all be vegan, or at the very least eat far less meat. And
Yeah.
you kind of touched on that within your response a couple of minutes ago, and I'm just intrigued on what your kind of stance is. Is it about for you eating the same amount of meat, or less but better quality, or yeah, where are you on that spectrum?
Yeah, again, listen, there are different types of people in the world, and some people have chosen to be vegan, and you know what, we should absolutely commend those people. There is no argument that a vegan diet is more sustainable and like better for the environment than most out there, but we also can't kid ourselves that all vegan food is like amazing for the environment. It's just not true, especially now that it has become so commercialized. There's lots of vegan food out there that's being created that is actually worse for the environment, contains a lot more ingredients, and isn't arguably any better for you. So you end up in this crazy sort of situation where you can't see the wood through the trees. Like, there is no archangelical sort of diet that you can pick. I personally don't agree with that, but ground isn't a product for vegans. If you don't like the idea of consuming an animal, then you're not going to be eating a beef burger, are you? But also, it's, you know, I think it's unrealistic to assume that the world will go vegan anytime soon. I think it's easy if you live in a little bubble somewhere, perhaps London, or I don't know, even other cities across the UK, to think, oh, it's fine, everyone's going to go vegan. But look, there's some people in the world that can't go vegan for health reasons, or you know, it might be a cultural thing. So I think we've got to be realistic here, and if ground can provide a product for meat eaters to do so in a more sustainable way, surely that's a win-win situation. Like, you just can't fathom a world where people don't eat meat. So what we do need to do is then make eating meat better for the planet. Surely the argument. And yeah, as the less meat argument, I think that there's definitely room to talk about that. Like, as I said, we waste a lot of food in this country. So if people sort of started reducing their food waste and ate meat as sort of a luxury or a treat, I don't know, it's up to everyone as an individual, isn't it? But I think if we're in a privileged situation where we can make those food choices, then yeah, we should, because there's some people out there that can't make those decisions. God, it's such a minefield of a conversation. But I think if we're all just real and honest with ourselves, providing a more sustainable meat option is probably better than nothing at all. So let's just do that.
Obviously, some of the, you know, the principle around regenerative agriculture is sequestering the carbon in the ground, and you've talked about that. Obviously, one of the controversial points around beef and cows is the methane, and where are you on that with regards ground? Is there anything that regenerative agriculture can do on that front, or are we just acknowledging that that's just
no? So the methane, the methane conversation is actually super interesting. Regenerative agriculture will sequester some methane as well, just because there's microbes in the soil that break down methane. That's just how nature works. But it's actually also super interesting to sort of acknowledge that so I think it's since 1970 the number of cows on the earth has decreased, but the methane has increased. So, you know, it's hard to actually even say with confidence that cows are the sole cause and problem of all of the methane in the atmosphere. It's, you know, rice paddies are a large contributor to methane in the atmosphere. And also we've got a lot of ice melting at the moment, which is causing a lot more decay. And as those sort of peaks and things are being exposed, methane's being released. So obviously cows do produce methane, but they're not the sole bad guy, I think. And while methane is a greenhouse gas, it's not the one that we have the most of, and it's also not necessarily the worst, because it has a natural life cycle of 10 years where it just breaks down by itself, whereas carbon doesn't do that. So again, it's another conversation. Let's be real. Let's tackle the problems that we can deal with. And let's be proud of the fact that we're producing a product that removes carbon from the atmosphere, and not disregard the methane thing, but also understand that it's a slightly more complex conversation.
Yeah.
So yeah, ground is, listen, I want to be as transparent and as honest as I can be with ground. We're not out here trying to kid people as much as people on Instagram would have you believe, like that this is a true, honest sort of situation that we're really just trying to do something better, and it's not without its faults.
So you're not saying it's the total solution. You're saying that it's that there are benefits to doing it this way. It goes some of the way. It's not the holy grail.
No, totally. And as a company, we will look then to further benefit, as I said, with the things that we can't ignore. So methane will constantly be on the lookout to find a way that we can make that situation better. But yeah, I think it's worth just noting that it's not as bad as it potentially seems from the outset. I think, as with a lot of these things, they can sort of get snowballed by the media. And methane is obviously not good, but cows aren't the only ones doing the methane.
Can I ask you why you feel that now is the right time or the most appropriate time? And by that I don't mean in the middle of a pandemic, but just generally, why do you feel, and I appreciate that it's a conversation that has evolved over a period of years, but you made the decision to go, do you know what, we're going to launch this brand Ground. Why more broadly do you think, do you know what, now is the right kind of time for that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it's an obvious answer, right? People are starting to look at their lifestyle choices more. And we are now being told, especially more prevalent with even corona, because we're being told that we're sort of causing all of these problems that we're now facing through our absolute beasting of our earth that we live on. So it just, it feels right, because I like to think if people are like-minded, then they too are also thinking about, okay, what easy choice, what easy change can I make that's going to just have a positive effect on the environment, and leave it in a good state for potentially offspring and children and grandchildren. I don't know, I think people are just starting to look inwards a little bit more and think, okay, I actually can't go about doing my life as I used to. I'm starting to feel quite guilty about some of the things, my lifestyle, like whether it's you fly a lot or you, I don't know, eat loads of red meat and you're reading that it's bad for the environment. I think people are starting to wake up. So yeah, I think like it's still going to be a slow process. Like, I think you and I are probably the few, not the many, where we're sort of looking at these things in the detail that we do. And I think it's unrealistic to expect, someone living on the breadline to start making choices for the environment when it's potentially going to cost them more money. So I think, it's hopefully going to be something that will continue into the future. And, hopefully if we can start influencing those big companies to start really making changes, then that's where the big change will come. But
Can I ask you a bit about the brand itself, and I suppose the branding? Because one of the things that I was really drawn to is the way you were communicating and making it really, really accessible. And we talked about the ethical meat company, and it's a brand and a business that I really love. I love what they're doing, but it is by its nature a more premium offering, and it feels like you've made a positive choice to communicate and articulate in a certain way to make it accessible. Can you just tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, totally. I think when I got involved with Ground, it was really clear that I was going to be able to sort of help shape the way that Ground looked and felt, because I just really wanted it to be a bit more fun. I think, often with what you're hearing on the news, everything can sound very terrifying and overwhelming, and actually it doesn't really need to be that way. We wanted Ground to just be like all the other burger products out there, but we're just doing something slightly different, and we didn't want that to then confuse people and make them think, oh god, like what am I doing? It should be a simple choice, making your food for the evening. And yeah, we wanted Ground to sort of be like the fun younger sister of the ethical butcher, you know, and it was really important to me to include color. Obviously, like I like colorful things, and yeah, we wanted it to be accessible and fun and not sort of exclude anyone.
No.
And I think by making it a little bit, the tone a little bit more informal and everything really bright, and just sort of keeping to sort of short statements that sort of explain ourselves well, I think helps bring Ground to life in that way. Like, you can get so bogged down in the details, believe me. Regenerative agriculture is a total minefield, and there's so many elements that make it what it is. You know, I don't even manage the land, I'm not the farmer, which is going to be a whole nother like level of education and knowledge. So I think it's important to us to sort of make, if people want to learn more about regenerative agriculture, then we have the resources in order to let people do that. But we also want people to just take Ground at face value and, you know, trust that what we're doing behind the scenes is good.
Yeah, you touched on the farms there. Actually, where are the farms? And yeah, just a bit, any more insight you can share on that and some of the kind of practices and with the ethical butcher. Yeah, whereabouts are the farms?
Yeah, so the farm side is kind of all dealt with ethical butcher, but obviously I talk to Farshad and Glenn most days. So the farms are in the UK. We've got one in Wales, Hertfordshire, East Sussex, and one in Chester. And yeah, I mean, in comparison to the sort of large farms that you see on these terrifying YouTube clips, they're really small in comparison, like couple hundred cows. And I know it sounds really like cringe, but these farmers really care about their animals, and you know, it is a labor of love. I don't think being a farmer at the moment in this country is particularly necessarily fun career choice. It's hard, and they're being faced with even more struggles with every day that comes, especially as the vegan movement picks up pace, you know. So it's really nice to have a close relationship with them and to be able to support them heading into the future. And yeah, that, I mean, I think Ethical Butcher works with lots of extra farms on top of that, because they also do chicken and pork and lamb, but these are the 4 that we work with Ground. And yeah, I mean, hopefully as the movement grows and as Ground grows, we'll be able to take on more farms, which would be amazing to sort of start supporting even more and working with more people. It's such a wonderful part of the business, being able to sort of have those feet on the ground and have a personal relationship with them.
Yeah. Can you well, tell us how practically we can engage with Ground? How can we get it? How can we try it?
Of course. I want you all to try it. No, so obviously with what's going on at the moment, we don't have a physical like customer facing base at the moment, but it will come. So for now, we're focusing on a DIY burger kit, obviously very trendy at the moment, and it is like super saturated, I would argue, but Ground is hoping to bring everyone the most environmentally friendly option out there if you're picking up a burger kit. This will be available in March. So I'm working on it all now. You know, we're making sure all of the packaging aligns with our beliefs. We're making sure the other elements of the burger, the bun, the sauces, what have you, all align with our beliefs. It's a process. And it's a process that I know lots of other food companies wouldn't necessarily bother going to that extent, because they just want to get all of their supplies from one place. We're not doing that. They all come from all over the UK. But again, super nice to be able to start building up relationships with like independent suppliers. And once you start learning about their practices and, you know, how they do things, it's just so fascinating. And yeah, really humbling as well to be able to sort of work with so many amazing producers across the UK. So that DIY burger kit is coming in March, and yeah, I can't wait for everyone to try it really, and to sort of see the effort that has gone into it. And do you know what, like, it's going to be a great burger, but I really hope that people react and respond to, you know, the environmental side of things as well, because that is at what's that is what is at Ground's core. And we want people to have an easy option to just sort of have a guilt-free meal. So yeah, fingers crossed.
And that's a complete kit: patties and cheese and sauce and buns and everything,
and chips as well. We're going to be doing our chips because we went to great lengths to sort of source an amazing potato for that. So yeah, we're going to be sending the whole shebang for 4 people, I think. It's going to be, and yeah, it's going to be really beautiful as well, which is something I'm really excited about.
Definitely. Well, I can't wait to be able to try that in March.
soon.
Yeah, exactly. How is the launch of Ground just been received, you know, more broadly? I mean, up until the beginning of, well, the kind of, I can't remember actually when it was closed down, but you had your street food.
We had a little pop-up sort of on Moulton Street, which was great actually, because it's so nice. I mean, that's why I'm in food. That's why I have my street food company, Steakhouse, because I like being able to talk to the people, and it's instant gratification when they sort of bite into your food and they're like, oh my God, that was amazing, you know. It gives me that boost. So yeah, it was nice to be able to do that, but obviously it got cut a bit short. But generally, like, we've had great reception, you know. I think climate positive burgers, people automatically assume that it cannot be beef. So it's super fun and interesting to sort of have that conversation with people on the ground, excuse the pun, and just sort of explain how it can be beef and open their mind up to regenerative agriculture and potentially inspire them to go and do a bit of research when they get home, you know. But yeah, it's been great. Obviously, we've got naysayers, obviously. I think you're always going to have people coming for you if you're going against the grain, and sort of, we are sort of leading the way in presenting a nicely packaged sort of version of regenerative agriculture. It's existed, you know, since time began, but Ground, I think, especially here in the UK, is one of the first products that's sort of championing regenerative agriculture. So yeah, we're facing a bit of criticism on Instagram, but I think it's all part of it, you know. Like, you've got to have these conversations. We don't want to be a faceless brand that doesn't you know, go for these questions that are raised. We want to be able to talk to people, and we do take the time of day to respond to people on Instagram.
Yeah, no, I can see that.
And and I think generally speaking, it's been amazing. And you know, there's a lot of people out there saying, oh, thanks, this is so inspiring, and I'm so grateful that now this is being brought to light. Maybe they're a farmer somewhere else in the UK that has been, you know, putting their life and soul into producing this amazing meat, and now people are finally coming to realize that it's available. I don't know, like, there's so many different situations out there, but yeah, it's, you know, like you said, I think the branding is really amazing, and you know, I can't take credit for that. We've been working with an amazing company on that called Dapple. So, but yeah, I think as a whole, it's, people are like, wow, okay, this is cool, let's like see where this goes, you know. And we're excited to see where it goes too.
I saw the picture of Pierre Kaufman with you at your
oh, he's so sweet.
Yeah, what was his view? Do you use his potatoes actually? We
do. So he actually is amazing. He has like this whole potato production side of his life that I never knew existed. Kaufman Foods, and they have put him and his wife have put a lot of time and effort into producing these amazing potatoes. I know a lot of restaurants in, like, top restaurants in London actually use them as well, but I wasn't aware of them until recently. And yeah, I think because we've been using his potatoes, and he also knows the guys at Ethical Butcher, he sort of struck up a bit of a bond with Ground, and he came to try them, and yeah, he was impressed, which is nice. Nice to get that sort of recognition so early on, you know, and it sort of gives us the confidence and power to sort of go forth and continue. Because listen, starting a business in the current climate is not something I would recommend. So you need those perks to just sort of keep you going, I think. And yeah, he's really lovely, and his potatoes are amazing. So we're really happy to have him, like, be able to be part of Ground and work with us on that burger product. It's amazing.
Fantastic. thinking about that, then what's your kind of longer term vision for Ground? I mean, I'm just sitting here thinking it feels like endless possibilities, but what yeah, where do you see
No,
it
of
going?
course.
How ambitious do you feel about it?
Yeah, we feel really ambitious about it, which I think is probably unusual for most at the current time. But listen, we are basing all of our sort of research and figures about carbon sequestering on a farm that had a study done in America called White Oak Pastures.
Yeah.
So it would be really awesome to be able to do our own study.
Yeah.
They're just really, really expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But it's certainly in our sights because, you know, we want to give Ground that certification that it deserves. We really want to sort of start leading the way in terms of system whereby people can pick products up easily on the shelves and know their ecological impact. So like a traffic light system or something, we want to sort of start working with people to start labeling food and its ecological impact better. And yeah, in turn, we want to have a retail sort of option for people to be able to go into the supermarkets and buy a Ground burger. That would be amazing. But we definitely want to sort of get a more physical presence going, potentially in London somewhere, you know, do residency, a pop-up, get on Deliveroo. Just all of these things can help sort of get this agenda sort of in people's faces, and hopefully we can then start making real difference. You know, it's not just about selling burgers for us. This is genuinely about making a difference. And if people can hear about Ground and think, oh, well, they're doing something about their food and where it comes from. So actually, even if they don't buy a Ground burger, if they go to another supermarket and they're looking for something for dinner and they think, oh, I'm going to look at the origin, where did that bunch of grapes come from, you know, then that is a real difference that we are making, because we're just awakening people to making better food choices and potentially not wasting as much food. And all of these things help and can help us get out of our climate crisis that we're currently in. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting to hear that it's about getting people to change behavior and just make a difference, even if that doesn't necessarily manifest itself in a sale for you, but it's a prompt and it's to change behavior.
No, 100%. And you know, I think it's a greater conversation that we're all having about, you know, our planet and our food and how it all ties in together. And it's why regenerative agriculture is so great, because it takes nature into account. And I think, you know, the reason we are in the trouble that we're in right now is because of us. You know, cows haven't done anything wrong. You know, no animal is bad for the environment. It's all us. So we just need to start changing our behaviors and our patterns, and just start being real about what we can and can't do, and you know, making sacrifices potentially along the way. You know, picking seasonal food. People don't understand that, like, certain foods don't grow all year round and can't therefore have them at every moment of the day. So yeah, it's a big topic, and it's going to take some time for us to really get a handle on it. But I have every faith that if people like me and, you know, other companies, you know, seeing it all the time now, like Brewdog beer company, really focusing on carbon and their environmental impact, if these companies start to make these changes and approaches to their marketing and the way they do things, then it will start to change much higher up the chain, which is just
where
something we can hope for.
Shifts. Absolutely, that's where you get
shifts,
isn't it?
It really is.
A last question for you, if I may, and I've been asking all of the people that I've interviewed as part of In Conversation with, you know, we're very clear at the Food People, you know, I want to be known for being a champion of change and shifting the future of food and drink. Can I ask you what you want to be known / famous, although famous is probably not the right word, but what is it, what would you want your legacy, I suppose, to be, particularly around Ground?
I think I would want our legacy to be that we make delicious food, because that's got to be top of it, really, and B, that we just gave sorry, I don't know if I can say that, but like that we just, you know, we tried and we were here and we pushed forward an agenda when it wasn't necessarily a very easy thing to do, and that we helped change the face of the beef industry here in the UK, and then who knows, potentially across the world. That would be pretty cool. And great for us and everyone in the future, really. But it's a big old task, so we'll see how we get on.
No, that's amazing. That's fantastic. Thank you, Lily, so much for joining me today. So that concludes this episode of the Food People in Conversation with Lily. I love your honesty and how candid you've been. It's really, really energizing. I'm sure the entire audience feels that. So a big thank you from us all,
Thanks
the
for
Food
having
People
me.
and the In Conversation with audience, for joining me today. And I think you've really brought to life how through your eyes, how you're championing change and shifting the future of food and drink. It's been a real pleasure to speak to you.
Amazing.
So do join our TFP community for all the details of our latest In Conversation with episodes, as well as the latest free to access food and beverage trends foresight. Visit thefoodpeople.co.uk and complete your details at the footer of the page. On behalf of Lily and myself, thank you so much for listening to the Food People in Conversation with. And as always, I'll leave you with one question, which is, how are you shifting the future of food and drink? Thanks for listening.